Why, hello there, and welcome to the TSL number 4. This is going to be the last series for today, but keep in mind this tournament has a round of 32, which is currently what we're in. So that means that even though today has been awesome, there is still a lot more to be had here. But coming up in this series, it is going to be an awesome, awesome PvZ.
I mean, what a series of matches we've seen today. And now we get the chance to see Rhett go up against Squirtle. Oh, so good. Spawning already in the right position as that happy time teal Protoss. It is going to be ST.Squirtle.
And down in the bottom center-ish side, it is indeed going to be Liquid Rhett himself. Such a manner player. I've been able to talk to him at a lot of different events. Very, very well-mannered and very dedicated, as he has been consistently good in StarCraft 1 for a long time. Also in StarCraft 2. And Sean, you've known Liquid Rhett for quite some time. What is his training regimen like, you would say?
Well, he's kind of an interesting player because he spends a lot of time watching, studying, and thinking before putting things into practice. So he devotes a lot of time to it, but not nearly as much people would necessarily devote to playing. It's one thing, for instance, for him to watch a style that he's never done and see if he likes it or dislikes it, and then that's it. He's already watched a near-perfect execution of another player before he steps in. So as a result, he has a really wide knowledge. He likes to exploit the metagame. He likes to say, yeah, Protoss, you're doing this a lot, so I'm going to respond in that way or another. So all that aside from strategy, he is one of the most mechanically strong and consistent players in the entire scene.
Yeah, he's also a player that during Brood War spent a little bit of time in Korea training for, basically back in the day you had to win a tournament to get your pro gaming license, and he was training for that quite a lot over in Korea. And quite frankly, I mean, those mechanics are something that stay with you for a long, long time, as long as you continue playing the game. And that's why I think he's been one of the better players out there. The players we do see go to Korea are the ones who, for the most part, tend to do very well in tournaments. Of course, there are gamer houses outside of Korea, but it's definitely a whole new world over there, Sean.
Indubitably. I mean, just the way that the entire scene has developed. A nice little wall off from Squirtle. Yeah, the way the scene is developed to sort of allow also for the foreigners to get a real chance to interact with the Koreans by having those mixed teams, the way that we have TeamLiquid having Koreans like Teja, Hero, Zenio, but also the strong foreigners like Rhett on there. Nice, nice melding of styles. Already at this point in the game, we see the most standard early expand humanly possible for Squirtle. I would expect him to go for some sort of 4-gate and expand quickly to that top right. Rhett doing the so standard 3 hatch by 4-minute style play.
Yeah, and I mean, this is not only standard for Zerg, but also very standard for Rhett. If you watch his stream or anything like that, you will see a lot of macro plays out of him. A lot of his games do go to the end game, but Zerg players tend to really like, as well, you're mentioning this a little bit earlier, Day9, is that Protoss can struggle in the late game versus Zerg because there's so many options for Zerg. The Brood Lords especially are something you see late game. And really, I mean, the main response for Protoss is to try and use a mothership. But anytime you're relying on a big, clunky, singular unit, it's going to be difficult to pull it off. But what do you think? I'm kind of curious that he completely walled himself in. Squirtle, that is. He can't actually get out of his base right now. What do you think about this?
You know, it's one of those things that no matter how strong it is, it puts your play a little bit face up. It's going to be, you know, Rhett's opportunity to, you can even do something crazy like build a 4th hatchery before you really get any units. And the Stargate's popping out right now. It's a very early Stargate for the record, though. And I think that's one of the reasons why we did see a complete wall-in from Squirtle. He literally has absolutely no extra money to even get a Zealot or a Stalker out first. So there, finally, the Stalker getting chrono boosted out, and Warp Gate comes after the Stargate gets started. So really, really intense ordering there, and whoops, it looks like Rhett actually missed the Stargate play.
Yeah, I think the positioning of it hides it from the Lings unless they spot it from a weird angle, and also the timing of it, I think he dropped it right when the Overlord flew over there, so he has no idea about this, and this is going to be great, great news here for Squirtle, especially since he got it so early, as you said, might take Rhett by surprise. I really want to know, is he going to go for the Void Ray right away or straight into Phoenixes? Looks like it is going to be the Void Ray, and he decides, I'm going to kill this Overlord first with this Void Ray. So he is going to reveal his hand, as he kind of mentioned a little bit earlier. So this Void Ray he's got one mission, and it is to kill that poor Overlord. But right now, I really want to know, what is Squirtle going to transition out of here? He does have the double gas now on the way. Rhett, though, doing what Rhett does best, making lots and lots of workers. Got a big wave of 5 drones here, now 6, and also I kind of like this for Rhett because he's got to know about this airplay.
Yeah, but I mean, is Squirtle actually going to do much with it? I think he's just going to clear out these overlords around his own base. And there, wow, he's going straight for those overlords. I mean, a lot of times you'll see players rally the Void Ray and then send the Phoenixes to go kill the overlords, but man, look at Rhett. He's getting a lair really early. Did he start that lair at, what, 7 minutes? And now he's getting Zergling speed, and then he's going to get the Roach Warren? This is the sort of exploitation that Rhett is so well known for.
Down goes Overlord number 2, but do remember, the more and more Phoenix he gets, and the fact, of course, that he does have the Void Ray right now, means that he's got to do some sort of damage here. A couple Overlords here and there are not going to be enough. He is going to be able to cough the 3rd one. If he can kill a 4th and possibly a 5th, I think he's going to be in okay shape. But one thing Rhett also does, and I've seen him do this in person, is just make a ridiculous amount of Overlords. He'll be at like 200 supply capability while only at about 100 supply in-game. So Overlords are kind of sacrificial, unfortunately, if you join up on the Rhett Swarm. It does look like Queen may go down, but is this going to be enough damage for him?
You know, this could be potentially annoying for Rhett, but he is just so good about responding in spots like these. Look at that, the insta-infestation pit. That Queen will end up falling down, and we see still more Phoenixes being produced. The Spore Crawler taking a good amount of damage. Wait, where is the additional Queen from Rhett? There she is, starting to trail up the ramp a little bit slow. Spore Crawler finally does finish now. Looks like just a couple of shots off, and oh, Squirtle! Oh! Loses the Void Ray.
The last shot for this Queen does take it out. That means that Spore Crawler, even though it was killed off, did the damage it needed to allow that Queen to get the killing blow. This is where Rhett is going to be in full recovery mode. He's already got 3 Queens out, and so yes, this did some damage, but I feel like the Void Ray didn't do the critical amount of damage it needed to. It was so close, but unfortunately losing that, he's not able to use it for defense. He's not able to use it for mid-game timings, but at the same time, Squirtle has finally opened up an avenue to actually get out of his base, and is now going to be securing a 3rd base. So where's the momentum lying right now here, Day9?
Well, the real issue is that we see Squirtle going for a completely defensive play. Taking the 3rd, getting the Robo, doesn't have Blank, focused on air. What Rhett's going to do is just expand and go straight for a Hive. We see the Spire going down right now. That's a little bit of a surprising choice from Rhett. I expect that he'll get Corruptors first, be focusing on those as he gears up for Hive, but even with these losses on the Queen, Hive should be coming out right away. I mean, you just can't lift buildings with Phoenixes, Mike.
If only we could, Sean. But it does look like you may be absolutely correct about that. The Spire, of course, started Pathogen Glands on the way. The 3rd base wrapping up here for Squirtle. Now, he did lose 1 Phoenix in that harassment, but he still hasn't been able to do that much. And as I was saying, Rhett loves Overlords. He's already making 2 more Overlords, and he's at 150 supply capability. All the Overlords are kind of having an intense conversation over there outside the natural. But Rhett, I don't know if I've ever seen him get supply blocked. I feel like he just always is making Overlords and doesn't have severe supply block like some players would versus this Stargate play. Look, the Overlords are getting taken out, but his supply capability is just going higher and higher. And that's Rhett knowing when he can actually get away with this stuff and not overextending the amount of money that he's spending on those Overlords. So the Phoenix still proving to be a nuisance here, may even kill off a couple of drones, but overall, you mentioned that defensive play, and that's when the tech's going to start rolling on out for Squirtle.
This is interesting, though. Rhett is delaying his Hive a little bit more than he ordinarily would. He's getting the Infestors out right now. We see those Phoenixes that are going up to the 4th base are starting to get a little bit nerved, as there's going to be a lot of Infestors gooping him up real soon. But there's been still no use of the Spire quite yet. I expect he was getting that just in case there was some sort of timing attack coming up with a bunch of Colossi, but right now Rhett is going to be in a very comfortable position. Oh, the Phoenixes, every single frickin' one gets picked off. Assuming Rhett doesn't lose track of them, of course, why wouldn't he?
Yeah, down they go, and I mean, that only cost him energy and a bunch of Queen Darts, but those count for free, so able to clean that up, that's going to make him feel so good, because number one, yes, Fungal can grab every single Phoenix because they clump up very quickly, but also they're so fast that you can whiff those Fungals quite easily, and that'll just make you more and more frustrated. But Rhett's going to get a little bit of momentum after killing off those Phoenix, has evened up the units lost overall. He lost 9 workers in that harassment, but taking a look at the units tab, he's already at 80 drones, so he could be up at 100 if he decides to, which it looks like he may, as 6 more about to spawn. And so Rhett, I mean, out of all the Zerg players I've seen be able to deal with Stargate harass, honestly, I think he's one of the best because he always keeps his cool and keeps himself on his feet. Is going to kill off that probe right there. A slight nuisance, but doesn't matter too much either way.
Look at that, a fleet beacon. Oh man, Squirtle taking us right to the late game right away. Rhett going to build as many spines as his little heart desires. And in the unit count, we see that Rhett up to 84 drones. Would not be surprised to see that go over the 100 mark as he gears up to take a 5th base. And now it looks like Squirtle is really in his comfort zone. The Warp Prism coming up, Storm, another Nexus en route. The Observer checking everything out in mid-map. It is the late game, Husky.
Late game PvZ, always interesting. However, this late game is a lot earlier than you would normally expect, just because the playstyle of both these players, I mean, we were talking about it a little bit before the game, is that they love this kind of playstyle, and that's exactly what we're saying. I mean, late game at 15 minutes, that is pretty crazy pants if you ask me, but with Psystorm on the way, could do a lot of damage to the Zerglings and Infestors. The problem, though, is gonna be those Broodlords. What's his options going to be? Well, right now he does have the Mothership on the way. It's at the 3rd base. Going to be dumping a lot of chronos into that, and he does have a lot of energy to be able to do so. A 4th base is on the way as well. He should be in pretty good shape right there, but supplies looking pretty even. What are the upgrades on the Broodlords? He's just getting those out right now. Doesn't have any upgrades on those, but his ground upgrades looking pretty stellar, while Squirtle has only got the +2 attack.
This is honestly a very tough spot to be in as either player. Sure, they're getting to have their, fancy late game unit composition and all that stuff, but just look at the map. They're so far away from each other. All the big late game strong aspects for both players are quite slow. The Mothership, the Colossus, the Templar. Same with Zerg, the Broodlord, the Infestor, the Spine Crawler. It's really slow. So what do you do as either of these players to get an edge? I think the biggest thing is going to be those center expansions and perhaps even the islands.
Yeah, the center expansions, for those of you who don't know, are very, very good on this map, but can be kind of difficult to defend because really, I mean, it's easy-ish to secure the bottom left and top right sides of the map. The Warp Prism trying to warp in some units is gonna be pushed out of there. The Corruptor will chase it down. Looks like pick it off as well. But one thing I want to draw a little bit of attention to is that Red has not been doing creep spread all that much.
Wow, that's great.
I mean, yes, his opponent has pushed down the center of the map, but really his creep never made it to the center of the map anyways. Both players do have a lot of money, which means every second, or a lot of supply, excuse me, every second that goes by, there's going to be bankrolling more and more money. We should see more gateways, we do, more hatcheries, we do. So we could be seeing one big battle followed up by just a huge swell of units. The Mothership finally now spawning, and now it's just kind of wait patiently for enough energy for a Vortex.
More Warp Prisms coming out. That Zealot leg speed is going to be real difficult for Rhett to deal with. As we go to the unit counting station, we see that he doesn't actually have that many Zerglings. 66 are there, but Rhett would even like to just do a little attack in the middle of the map, as we see right there. Get rid of them. Free that food up, do other interesting things.
The High Templar completely out of mid. The Mothership will float them, but did force them into an Archon. I think those were the High Templar with a lot of, no, the High Templar with a lot of energy are still there, but he gets a surprising surround there, but then these Zerglings are saying, I can't see anything. And did he do that much damage to those High Templar? Not really. Zealot's going to warp in, completely trapping those links for a moment. And at this point, you mentioned sacrificing them. Oh, does kill the Nexus there. So was that worth it, Day9?
Yes, just very yes. He doesn't want them at all. We see a bunch of Corruptors and Broodlords in production, but keep in mind, once those Broodlords and those Infestors make up the bulk of the army, Zealot Warp-ins and the mains are going to be real scary. Here comes the first one.
Storm drop, but not a whole lot to actually storm. 2 storms for 4 drones, but he does warp in those units. These are sacrificial units as well. This is just to buy him more time to secure that, what looks like his 5th base now. He's going to try and focus down the hatchery. Might actually be able to get there with the upgrades he has. Down goes Warp Prism. Does storm on the Infestor's feedback. I think would have been a better choice. He would have one-shot some of those units. But in the heat of the moment, must have hit the wrong hotkey. But regardless, does take out that expansion here for Rhett. And Rhett doesn't have as much money banked up as you might think a Zerg player would at this point. So he needs to make sure to not lose another.
This is such a scary spot for both players. I can't emphasize that enough. Most players would think that Zerg is generally going to be the most comfortable here. I would probably lean more towards Protoss, because the Protoss does have the opportunity to do warp-ins with those 2 Warp Prisms, while still slowly increasing the Archon Mothership composition. And Rhett is almost pinned to defense. These center expansions will soon be taken by Protoss. I mean, even look at the money Protoss is just dominating.
Yeah, and still no creeps, but haven't even seen an attempt at it. It does look like Squirtle is going to attempt to move in here. I mean, this is just poking around. This is keeping Red focused on something other than creep spreading, other than expanding.
Oh,
and
no.
The Banelings, not Banelings, Broodling's able to move up there. Need to be careful with the Infestors, though, as you got to remember just how long it's going to take these Broodlords to ever make it out into the center of the map. It's going to take so much time. He is rolling double upgrades, I believe. Yep, 2-2 on the way for his air. The +3 melee attack is on the way. Another warp in over here. You got to remember that there was 3 warp prisms on the map at one point, and it does look like a drop in the main and a drop at the 5th, 6th, 4th-ish area.
Squirtle doing such a great job pushing and pulling Rhett in little slight ways here and there, and now the Greater Spire. Will it go down before he gets armor? There's a transfuse. Oh, did it happen? I can't even tell. Clicking on one of the Broodlords. No!
Oh, God. Seconds away from completing that. Rhett has got to be furious right now. Already upgrading that one into a Greater Spire, but this is why you have to protect your Spires, as a lot of Protoss builds actually revolve around just sniping the Greater Spire in the late game. That's what we saw there, seconds away, and Day9, I'm getting really excited. We're seeing an upgrade we almost never see, the Graviton Catapult, which means Carrier has arrived.
Carrier is the perfect late game transition for Protoss. It is the most cost-effective mixture for Protoss at the very, very end. It deals so much damage, but the fact remains that carriers are extremely difficult to get. It's very understandable why they are so rare in this matchup. You're seeing Rhett struggling to just get 5 bases up without even attacking. His main looks like it's now about to be under assault. We see 1 Warp Prism at the 5th, and 1 heading really fast into the main.
Warp Prism Screed proving to be very, very effective. Your Storm Drop on the drones doesn't do massive damage, does manage, though, to kill off a couple of them. And then the nice thing is that you can force it into an Archon, which is force more energy to be used on the Infestors. It's got to be worth it, and could focus down a couple of drones to be micros, but gets trapped behind the mineral line, so that's not going to be an option. The drop in the main base is going to go straight for the Spire, but the Spine Crawlers there are pissed. There's so many more there protecting that, and the Greater Spire says, hey, thanks, guys. That was pretty scary. Dropping now at the natural. Once again, getting the Archon in there. I think he's finally got to clean this up. But what an interesting game. I mean, with the lack of creep spread, Rhett is not able to push forward with those Spine Crawlers and Infestors as efficiently as he would like. And with the constant drops, he also can't lead the base. But at the same time, the Protoss player can't engage him directly because Brood Lords behind Spine Crawlers are just ridiculous. So that means 6 carriers at a time being produced. What the hell? This has me quite happy. I approve.
But an engagement might finally actually happen. Right now, neither player has really had a direct army battle, and Rhett's still adding on. He has 14 Broodlords, and he is adding on a whopping 9 more. He's going to be at 25 Broodlords. Excuse me, 23 Broodlords.
He may as well be at 25 at this point, though, but at some point, those carriers are going to reveal themselves, and it is not going to be a pleasant experience if your name is Liquid Red. Also, I would like to note that Liquid Red is at 210 out of 200 supply. If you're wondering how you do that, you build a ridiculous amount of Spine Crawlers, like 50, not that many, but a lot, and you cancel them after you build the units over it. So it's a nice way for Zerg players just to sit back, continue to get units. Does he have enough Corruptors? You got to remember, he doesn't have that +2 armor upgrade, which would be invaluable right now. But we're going to see a lot of carriers coming into action. Sean, look at this 4th base. It is absurd how many carriers are there.
Oh, does Rhett know? Does he have any idea about the number of carriers that are going to be on the map? We see a huge force starting to spring in. This is the first major engagement of the day, and now, oh my gosh, Rhett's army, 11k in resources, or 11k in minerals, and 9k in gas. Just an incredibly expensive army. Rhett sees the carriers, pulls back, needs to find a better angle to engage.
Or a better way to actually just attack anywhere, and that does look like it is going to be the Nidus Worm. Carriers are rather slow. Yes, they can fly, of course, but they're still a basically slow unit. So a Nidus Worm all the way in the corner of the base could be huge, especially if you just unload some free Zerglings to constantly be attacking that. Did he make another Broodlord? Okay, no, that's another Overseer over there on the left side. But my god, right now, is this going to be enough Corruptors? 18 Corruptors, 22 Broodlords, and 2 Zerglings 10 Infestors. I gotta say, I've always wanted to see a Zerg go for an army composition like this,
wow.
and we're about to find out if it works.
Probes starting to just make their way for sacrifice in the middle of the map. Protoss desperately looking for a way to free up some of his food as he's at almost 80 workers, getting ready to sacrifice a lot more. That plus attack upgrade for the carriers almost finished. He will be on max attack upgrade for them, and now the Stalker's trying to pull back. This is such a tense game. Up on the top side, we see a couple of stray Zerg Nidus worms trying to break in there, but Squirtle is just locked down tight.
I don't think I've ever seen this many carriers in a game, especially with such good upgrades. 3 attack, 2 shields, 2 armor, with the remaining upgrades to be completely maxed out. I don't care how many Corruptors you have, it can be tough, especially with the High Templar here ready to storm. If those Corruptors are unfortunate enough to clump up, Broodlords as well. I don't know if you caught a glimpse of it there, but they can clump up very heavily as well. Ret realizing that, gonna go ahead and spread this out. At some point, someone has to attack, because we are currently at 5,000 minerals for each of these players. That doesn't even include gas. I don't know how many warp gates we're up to, but it is quite a lot. You can follow it up with a lot of Blink Stalkers. The second you lose a carrier, is going to manage to kill off Broodlord and maybe a second one, as Stalkers do a lot of damage there. No, it does hang on, but how much larva does Ret have? Only 35. He could have more than that, but for now, they're going to both be able to remax after losing this army. But this is so tense.
This is a very, very odd position. We've just seen almost all the ground units evaporate for Protoss as he tries to replace it all with carriers. Here's the engagement coming forward. This is going to be the engagement. Can he get a good angle? We see so many infested Terrans being thrown down. The Corruptor count trying to take him down, and he pulls in his own carriers and those infested Terrans trying to take him out. But we see the Corruptor count is ridiculous. Those High Templar try to step forward, but the Mothership falls immediately. A seemingly pretty badly miscontrolled battle by ST.Squirtle right now. The Corruptors are just walking up. Where is the Interceptor count?
Currently at 48, but the Storm's able to lower that Corruptor count. Can he actually kill the Corruptors? Nope, he's going to have to full-on retreat here. Remember, these Broodlords would be completely undefended if he could kill off the Corruptors, but guess what? 20 more Corruptors on the way. 6 carriers on the way as well. Honestly, I think something else is going to be the option here. Nice storms there on the Broodlords, slowly doing damage here and there. Think of the High Templar kind of like Thor's, where they can do a little bit of damage, but if they are clumped up, it is massive, massive damage. But that is so many Broodlings right now. Unfortunately, you can't see Broodlings on the units tab, but just know it is a lot.
And now, with all those carriers picked off and a pretty anticlimactic final fight, it looks like Ret was able to crush the incoming force of Squirtle. And now with those 30 Corruptors coming the way, where are they? Ret making a big shove at the 5th base of Squirtle.
And right now the carriers need to focus fire the Broodlords. They're actually shooting the Broodlings there for a little bit, but it does look like the Corruptors will be here momentarily. There they are, arriving just in time for the kill the carrier party. And it does indeed go that way. And at this point, I mean, what can you do with carriers? Still 6 at a time, but the Corruptors are just way, way too high. And at this point, I mean, what are your options as Protoss? If you go Blink Stalkers, they're going to get taken out by the ridiculous amounts of Broodlords. If you go carriers, they're going to get taken out.
GG!